These two cars are the first Subarus that Philip and I ever purchased. So this is Dyson. This is a Platinum Silver 2004 STI. This is Philip's car. This is Clifford. This is a 2011 Lightning Red WRX Hatchback. This is my car. So Dyson wasn't an immediate name. Dyson was a name that came kind of later on. Dyson, I feel like with this car, we dealt with more vacuum leaks than anything. So that's kind of how it got its name. It had a lot of vacuum leaks, so pun intended, Dyson vacuum cleaner. It was supposed to be a joke back then, but it ended up just being a catchy name. So it's had that name for years now. Clifford, I think it's kind of obvious why it's named Clifford. Clifford is red. So that one doesn't really need much explanation. The rod knock that occurred when on the first engine that spun a rod bearing was atrocious. Like it was honestly one of the worst that I've heard personally. But so that's why it got this license plate. So Dyson got the Ringlands license plate because this car has dealt with more ringland failure than any of our other cars. And yes, they were pretty much all from bad tunes. That was a really hard lesson learned, but you know, it's a lesson that was learned, and you learn and move on from that. But yeah, so because this car has gone through so many engines that have had ringland failure, that's why it got this license plate. It was very appropriate. This was a really random purchase. It was October 17th of 2017. So pretty much directly after Hurricane Harvey flooded Houston. It's a great time to buy a car. So we had called up a dealership, asked them if they had any older Subarus in stock. And when we called, they said that they had just received a red WRX hatchback and it had just been traded in. So we're like, okay, we're gonna come look at it. So we got there and both of us immediately fell in love with the car. And it was completely stock, completely. I think the only thing that it had was an access port in the glove box, and it lasted for about 3 months and spun a rod bearing at 87,000 miles. So it was it wasn't 3 months later. It was 2 months later because we were driving so we went to the dealership, got the oil change, and then we started driving to my parents' house in Austin for Christmas. And this was like December 21st or something of 2017. And we got about an hour down the road after getting the oil change at the dealership. And Philip started hearing this weird ticking sound. And he was like, I think there's something wrong. And that's when we got to experience our first spun rod bearing. And I'll play this video now so y'all can hear how absolutely god-awful the sound was. I will never forget that. So I bought this car on April 20th, 2018. So I bought it on 4/20. Not that that matters at all. For when I bought this car, we were under the impression that everything was fine with it. We were also still noobs at the time, like extreme noobs. Like even though we had already experienced blowing this up, we still were not experienced or knowledgeable really at all with Subaru issues and things to watch for. So bought this car, even test drove it, but how are we supposed to know that we needed to pull out the dipstick and look to see if the oil that was in the engine was actually regular oil and not heavy duty oil stabilizer. Yeah, so we didn't know. So we were fooled into thinking that there was nothing wrong with this engine in the car, when there very much was. It already had a spun rod bearing. The owner had filled the engine with heavy duty oil stabilizer. Drove the car for about 3 hours total, just combining drive times over like a span of a couple days, and then we started hearing the knocking sound. When we got the car back home, that's when we checked the oil, and it was just molasses on the dipstick. And then you take off the oil fill cap, and it was just molasses again. So it was just like, wow, awesome. I'll never forget that either. So yeah, so what is that like? So December 2017, spun a rod bearing. April 21st, 2018, spun a rod bearing. So right off the bat, 2 spun rod bearings, and it was, you know, our great, awesome experience with Subarus, all within a matter of months. So now that you've learned about the cars, now let's talk about what our next steps are. So this is Clifford short block. This is going to get rebuilt. I need to bring it up to Ryan at P2P Racing. It has grooves in the first and second cylinders. So the cylinder walls will need to be rehomed. But the plan with this is to bring it to 99.85 millimeters. And then the heads don't need any work. So I'll just slap those back on once this is done, and then I'll put this back in Clifford and have it tuned. So the plan for tuning is to just do the E-tune like I've been doing before with torque performance, and the goal is to make it to roughly 650 wheel horsepower. Right now, well, obviously not right now, but previously Clifford was at 600 wheel horsepower. So the goal is to be just slightly more. This is another engine that we have inside the house. So this is going to go in Dyson. This is a stage 5 P2P Racing long block. The goal with Dyson, and actually I have the turbo over there that's going to go in, I'll grab that. So this is a Precision 6870 turbo. The goal with running this turbo and this engine is to make about, well, I guess just to make however much we can make with this turbo, which I believe is around 700 to 750 wheel horsepower, maybe more, just depending on the dyno. But yeah, so this will be going into Dyson. We just have to order a few more parts and make the fuel lines, because we will need to run larger fuel lines along the chassis to the fuel tank. So it's going to be a big project, but we're looking forward to it because Dyson is going to be crazy. But yeah, so that is what we have planned for the cars. So even though our start with Subarus was pretty rough, we've learned so much over the years that it's just, we've been able to grow in the Subaru world. And that's really what our passion for Subarus really came to, which is why we now own 7. But I'll have to give y'all a breakdown on the other 5 that we have. But these are just our 2 OG Subarus that we started out with. The Subarus that kind of brought all of this together. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.